Before you ever start shooting, it's a really good idea to sit down and organize your thoughts. YouTube is a longer form platform, which means that you could have a video that's 7 to 12 minutes, 30 minutes long, which is great because it leaves a lot of room for conversation, but it also opens up the opportunity for rambling. So let's talk about how to prep your YouTube videos. If you're planning to post 3 to 5 times a week, that's a lot of content to prep, and also potentially a lot of time spent writing scripts. Don't do it. Don't spend so much time writing scripts that you're gonna burn yourself out. Do you need to sit down and write out some ideas? Absolutely. But there's a very specific way that we like to prep our content to make it really easy and systematic for you. I suggest that you start out by writing a simple outline. The main things that you want to know are the intro, the hook. How are you going to get people excited about what you're going to talk about? And then having an idea of what the content is and how you're going to wrap up the video. Years ago, I was asked to go on live television and go to these events and talk about how fun they were and what we were going to do. And I was absolutely terrified because I thought, okay, how am I going to talk for 20 minutes when I don't really have any sort of script and it's live and I don't have an opportunity to mess up? Well, I got some really great advice, and it was know how you're going to get into the video and know how you're going to get out. We see it all the time when we're working with clients. The intro can be the most difficult part because it's super important, right? It's where you have like 15 seconds to get people interested in what you're going to say so that they stick around for your entire video. But the second part where people struggle the most is with the outro. Because for some reason we have this tendency, I think especially when we're talking to a camera, that we start to ramble, that we're like, I don't know how to finish this sentence, I'm just gonna keep talking until something happens and then I'll be able to wrap it up. And I started saying this over here, so now I don't know, and then they get stuck in this loop of not being able to just cut off the sentence and wrap it up. So if you know those two things, what you're gonna say for your intro and how you're going to wrap up the video, it's a lot easier to then fill in the middle with really great conversational content. For the middle part, I like to do bullet points or break it up into sections. Say, okay, point A, I'm going to talk about this, and I'm going to give myself a couple of ideas of things to say. Then I'm going to move into point B, and then I'm going to move into point C, and then, oh, here's my call to action and my wrap up. And that makes it really easy for me to just say, okay, in this section, I know I want to kind of say these few things, but I didn't sit down and fully script it out. There's a few problems with fully scripting out your video. A, it takes forever. If you're making a 30-minute video or even a 10-minute video and you're gonna sit and you're gonna write out an entire script, that's gonna take a while. But the second thing is that it's going to seem scripted. It doesn't really matter how good you are on camera. You can tell if somebody's fully scripted something out and they're thinking, okay, I want to say this word next, and then this word, and then this word, and they're not engaging and connecting and just thinking, what is it that is the most important thing for the viewer to know? I don't go into these things blind. I don't just decide I'm going to ramble and whatever comes to mind comes out. I definitely sit down and really think about what's the message that I want to get across, who is it that I'm trying to speak to, and what are the most important key things that they might want to know. One of the best things about advertising and marketing on YouTube is that you don't just have 30 seconds for somebody to decide that they like you and they want to buy your product. You have, an entire conversation with them where they really get to know, like, and trust you. Now, this type of video, of course, is a talking head video. It's just me. I've got my cameras, I've got my set, and I know that I'm trying to answer somebody's question. In your videos, you might choose to do something slightly different, and that's okay. You might be out in the field, you might be showing them a specific product, you might be showing them an experience, but it's still going to follow kind of the same rules of this video. Let's say you have 2 people in your video. That might seem like it's a little bit more difficult to prep because you don't want to be like, okay, now you say this, and then I say this, and then you say this, and then I say this. You want it to be super conversational. So this is a really great way for you to both sit down and say, okay, we want to hit these points, but how we hit them doesn't really matter. If I say it, if you say it, you know, we can kind of just bounce off of each other. Maybe you have an idea that sparks a thought for me. So using two people on camera, you can still use this system of knowing what your intro is, knowing what your outro is, and then having bullet points for your content. One of the main things that I would keep in mind, no matter what kind of content you're creating, is that you have to ask yourself, am I giving some sort of value? Now that value can simply be entertainment, but think about during your video, are there any opportunities where I can offer some valuable information to my viewer, or a funny moment, or some of my personality so that they can get to know me better? It's important to bring the viewer into your experience. Don't leave them out. You don't want the viewer to ever feel like they're just watching something on YouTube. It's a little bit different, right? A lot of times on YouTube, you'll see people talking directly to the camera as opposed to this sort of side angle shot that you would see on the news. I'm sure that was a super flattering shot, and I'm super excited to see that in the edit later. But realistically, you just want to think about, you know, connecting with your viewer directly. So with just me, I'm able to speak directly to the camera, no problem. But if I had a second person here, then we would want to think about it as just three people sitting at a table, right? I don't want to be like this and talking directly to this person the whole time and then you over there feel left out. But I don't want to be like a newscaster where I'm just talking directly to this camera and now I'm leaving this person out and we're having no connection or no conversation. You want to have just a simple, easy, I'm conversing with you, now I'm talking to you for a second, I'm asking you a question, I'm bringing it back to here, we're all in this together. Whatever you do, just make sure to make it conversational, include your viewer as much as you possibly can. If you're showing them how to do something or you're showing them a cool experience, again, let them see that, let them feel like they're experiencing that. But then also take a few moments to just look directly in the camera and give them some sort of advice or some education or even just some, you know, entertainment with something funny. Every time I sit down to do my outlines, the same thing sort of happens. The first video that I start prepping, I write way too much. I just have to get every single thought I have out. And by the time I get to the 10th video, it's a lot shorter and a lot more to the point. You kind of just have to get into that flow. And the more you do it, the more you'll realize I'm just going to be able to simply, speak on what I already know, and I don't need to think too much and put too much word for word on the computer. Some people might get to the point where they feel like, oh, I've done so many of these outlines, I could just wing a video. And I suggest not doing that. Even if you feel super comfortable or confident that you're able to do that, I would still at least have a couple of ideas written down so that you can stay on track. I have seen sometimes when people get to that point, then they do a video and it turns out a little rambly, or it kind of goes in circles, or they get off track way too much. So if you're going to do anything, at least just write down a couple of points, a couple of thoughts, just to keep yourself on a nice track. If you're looking to get started on YouTube and you want a full A to Z plan of exactly how to do that, we have a full course in our description box below. So go ahead and click that link. It is called Monetize Your Marketing, and it goes all the way through pre-production, production, post-production, and how to create funnels. We are your video allies. You've got this, we've got your back, and we cannot wait to see what kind of content you create.